see, we are created in a magnificent vibration, in an absolutely magnificent vibration. Born risk takers. Free. That conditioning takes place after birth. You can change it. It takes guts. It takes goals. Do you know something? You're sitting there watching this and you're thinking, by God, I'm going to change something. I always say, keep reminding yourself that you have tremendous reservoirs of potential within you, and therefore you are quite capable of doing anything you set your mind to. You really can. I don't care what the cynics tell you. Quit listening to some of your peers. Now, all you must do is figure out how you can do it, not whether you can or not. When are you going to do it? When are you going to do it? You've got to create a sense of urgency. I'm going to do it right now.
If you can see it, you can do it. But the beautiful truth is you can do anything. We got to know there is a place. There is a specific frequency. And if you get on that frequency, you're going to attract what you need to you. This is what it's all about. Why have you been endowed with such awesome powers? If you'll make a committed decision, this I'm going to do. And you don't have to know how. You do not have to know how. The second you make the committed decision, you flip your brain onto the frequency that you have to be on to attract what you have to attract to manifest the thing that you want. If you can see it, you can do it. It's got to be something you want. Wants come from inside. Act like you're already there. Walk, talk, speak, live like you're already there. Don't set a small goal. Don't set something that doesn't really wind your stem. Set it so big it jazzes you. It really gets you going. When something of a very high nature resonates with the very high side of you, you'll know it. You'll know it. You will feel it. Feeling is conscious awareness of vibration. The only prerequisite, do you want it? Not do you need it, not could you do it. The only prerequisite is, do you want it? Take the lid off your marvelous mind and dream. For goodness sake, give yourself the right to do that. Get your analytical mind out of the way. Put it in your pocket for a while. All you're doing is exploring, daydreaming. What did Lawrence say? All men dream, but not equally. Those who dream by night in the dusty recesses of their mind waken the day to find that it was vanity. But the dreamers of the day are dangerous men, for they may act their dream with open eyes to make it possible. This I did.
Hey there, welcome to Freedom, Health and Lifestyle, Personal Development with a Plan. And I'm just waiting for my good friend, Joye, $1 Million Difference Maker, Maka Unga, to join us. I don't know if he's going to get on, but listen, we're going to get going anyway. So, look, this is episode 145. Something wonderful is happening, unlocking your hidden potential. Now, there's a little video on YouTube I'm going to share, and it's of a recording. It's a recording of Bob Proctor, an early recording, which I think you're going to love. And here's my good friend, Joye, $1 Million Difference Maker, Maka Unga. Here he is. Say hello, Joye.
Hey, Mike. Hey, good day, everyone. Just Joye, Maka Unga here from Sydney, Australia. So happy, so grateful for another day. My apology, Mike, for the running late. I came home, I crashed, and my wife just get home and said, "Hey, are you on tonight?" I said, "What's the time now?" She said, "It's almost 7." So thank you for starting our program. So excited. Sorry for the show up and late.
You're fine, Joe. You're fine. You're absolutely fine. So I've got this little. Or, you know, it's an audio cassette that Bob recorded really early on, and I've not listened to it in years. And I thought, I know we talked last week about Earl Schoaf, and I do have his recording, his 42-minute recording, which is fascinating in itself. And we will get to that, afterwards, because he was Jim Rome's mentor. Do you know what I mean? I really want to try and, understand a bit more about, Schoaf. But again, I just thought this little audio cassette, because it's quite raw, Bob Proctor in his early days, and he's cracking jokes and all kinds of different things. So it's kind of worth having a listen to. But look, episode 145, something wonderful is happening, unlocking your hidden potential. And of course, look, this is what it's all about. It's all about thinking better, doing better. Yes, it's okay to, be grateful for what you have, but it's okay to want more. So I would encourage you never to settle. Be grateful, but look, be better as well. Now, don't forget, like, subscribe, share, click that notification button. You'll learn when we're on, usually around about the same time every week. And of course, I'm here with my good friend, Joey, $1 Million Difference Maker, Maka Unga. And of course, you can find him on Facebook. Links are in the description, and also on his health and wellness business page, where there's a great contact form. All you need to do is just put in your name, your details, telephone number, best time to get in touch, and Joey will reach out. And of course, let me see. Oh, yeah, Eric Worre. We need to get back on some Eric Worre stuff at some stage, right? Now, you can find me at petsoftheisland.com/academy. My wife, Kate, and I, we started this business over a decade and a half ago. And what we do is help pet owners feel like the best pet owner in the world by giving them a less hassle, less stress, guilt-free experience. And of course, we want to teach other people how to do the same. And again, look, if you're in that industry, in the pet care industry or the pet care space, reach out, get in touch. Maybe what we've got is what you're looking for to help unlock your hidden potential and true potential. And of course, you can find me at petsoftheisland.com/academy. Get in touch there. Now, of course, I'm excited we're going to get into this, Joey, right? And we'll maybe pause it. We'll skip. There's going to be ads in it, right? So first of all, I'm being cheap because I haven't paid for the full version, adless version. But we're going to have a listen to it, and then we might pause it part way through just to get some of your thoughts on it. And right, let's have a look. Anything you want to add before we get started, Joe?
No, Mike, I just want to say a little bit of experience that I had on the weekend. We went away with the army on a training exercise, and it was cold, freezing. But in the morning, it was a beautiful day. You can tell when the sun's going up. And I make a post today, and I said, every day there's opportunity to get better. And the first thing come to my mind, it was you, my good friend. And I love that quote because I got it from you. And today, as I came in, you say something that is I think I need to share because it's very short, but it's come from you, and I love your wisdom and your knowledge because you've been part of my success. You've been part of my journey, and you say something: be grateful, but be better at the same time. So I'm here today. I'm grateful because because I need to get better every day, and I thank you for that.
Joey, I think, to be honest, that's all we've got. That's all
Yep.
we've got, isn't it, really? Do you know what I mean? Is just to be better. Like yesterday's already gone. Can't change it. But, the funny thing is that I'm only in competition with myself. Nobody else. And what I love about what we learn here, is that it's not that competitive, thing. Sometimes, like we want to be competitive for sure. But you're only competing against yourself, nobody else. But it's that creative aspect. How do we pull other people together to cooperate, so that we all win, so that we all thrive? It's not about standing on other people's backs to get to the top. It's about, all of us rising and thriving. And you do that through growth, and but look, that's what these are about. They're about learning, and that's all you can do. Learn and then apply it, act on it. Like for me, these are about your final thoughts. I love getting your final thoughts, because there's so much clarity in listening to somebody else. When we're going through this, and then to get your final thoughts on it sometimes there's just like little nuggets, and it's like, yeah, that makes so much sense. Now I understand that better. Do you know what I mean? Because sometimes it's somebody else's perspective that gives you perspective. You know? So I love listening to the things that you've got to say, Joe. And the truth is, you're making a real difference, you know, for people, you know, with the people that you're working with, the partners that you've, you know, the business partners that you're setting up and that you're helping. You know, of course, your collaborations in investment properties and things like this, all of those things, you know, like you having a home, you being able to let a home to somebody else makes a real difference for that person, you know, that they've now got a home that they can live in. You know what I mean? Like, I love that. You know, yes, you benefit, but they benefit too. Everybody wins. Do you know what I mean? And that's the beauty of it. I think that when you can create win-win-win situations, you know, for people, you know, that's just the beauty of the game in a sense, you know. But anyway, right, we're going to hear what Bob Proctor has to say, because, you know, I've not listened to this in years. I don't know if you've ever even heard it before, have you?
Not that I'm aware. Not that I'm aware, but I'll see. I'll see, and I'll let you know.
Yeah. All right. Let's have a listen.
Thank you. Oi.
In my 10 years as executive editor and now president of Success Unlimited magazine, I have probably been exposed to more books, articles, and speeches dealing with success than any other living American. After you read pieces and listen to speeches on this subject, or any subject for that matter, for a certain length of time, you begin to acquire a certain instinct about them, a radar that activates a bell when you come across something meaningful and worthwhile, and sets off a buzzer when you are reading or listening to tripe produced by someone who doesn't know what he or she is writing or talking about. I can assure you that the speech you are about to hear, delivered to the largest gathering of insurance people in North America, rang my bell, and I think it will ring yours if you are searching for some common sense techniques that not only explain how you can succeed, but also tell you why you've probably been failing in your search for a better life, both personally and in business. One of the definitions of secret in my dictionary is a method or art.
Welcome to High Level. We're an all-in-one platform that gives you everything you need to...
known only to the initiated or the few. On that basis, although I've been guilty myself of using the phrase, there are no secrets of success. Man has always known what to do in order to achieve his goals. His problem has been convincing himself that the necessary expenditure of time, energy, and discipline was worth the price. Usually, after he fails a few times, he finds it much easier to convince himself that success is not worth the effort, and he settles down to a life of mediocrity. Now, I don't know how you feel about all of this. If you're happy with your current income, if you're happy with your current position, if you are happy with your present way of life, then you have probably wasted your money on this cassette. But if you know you can do better, if you know that you're worth more than they're paying you, then listen carefully to what Bob Proctor has to say. And take my word for it, he knows what he's talking about. Bob has studied the habits of man and his struggle with success and happiness for many years. His seminars are usually sold out, and his training has helped some of our biggest corporate giants like Volkswagen, Metropolitan Life, and United States Steel. Testimonial.
Oh, hold on. I'm just going to change the play speed.
However, really shouldn't mean much to you. Anyone can get testimonials. What is important is that inside of you, there is a gnawing, burning desire to change your life for the better. Without that will to do better, you will not succeed. What comes after will? Faith. Faith that you can accomplish miracles if you believe you can. Remember Christ? So very often before he performed a cure that the world called miraculous, he would address the afflicted person and ask, "Do you believe I can do this?" Without that faith, without that belief, there are no miracles. Now settle back, pay attention, and listen to a master speaker show you how to change your life for the better, starting right now. Here's Bob Proctor.
Well, we've heard some pretty good ideas this morning. I worked with Red Motley last summer, and he said something that I was thinking of while I was sitting there. He said, none of these ideas are any good unless we take them out and use them. A lot of people will sit here, gather a lot of wonderful information, and go out and nothing really happens. Most speakers that you hear from, that I've heard from, and I've listened to a few hundred of them, I suppose, over the last 13 years, tell us what we should do. Your training programs that the company gives you tells you what you should do. We take a somewhat different approach. We work on why you don't do it. You know, when we asked, or when I believe it was Cleo asked, for the $1 Million members to stand, there's no reason why everyone in the whole place shouldn't have been able to stand. Now, some people will say, well, you're not in our business. You don't really understand that. No, but I'm in my business, and I understand it in our business. Now, we all know in your industry you have a high dropout ratio. You have a lot of people that are not in the $1 Million roundtable. I think in our business we have a higher dropout ratio. We have more people who don't even earn a living than I would care to think about. And there's one reason for it. They've never really fallen in love with the idea of doing what they're supposed to be doing. Now, that's rather sad, but that's the way it is. We understand a lot of things about life, and I think there's a lot of things we don't understand about life. For 13 years now, I've studied one subject, and after 13 years, you began to gather a little bit of information if you just study one thing. And I believe that probably everyone in this room knows how to do many, many times better than what they're doing. We know that no one can tell us how much we could do. If we would let this little piece of chalk I got here represent an acorn, and I was to go and ask anyone in the room to tell me something about this acorn, I'd get a fair amount of information, I would imagine. And some of the answers I might get would go something like this: well, it's an acorn, and they'd be right. Someone else might say, inside that acorn is a giant oak tree. The whole business is inside that acorn. We've got the trunk, the roots, the bark, the branches. We've got the whole business right inside that acorn. If we split it open, we won't find it, but we know it's there. If we try and force it, we'll kill it. If we just keep it in our pocket, it is not going to develop. But if we create the right environment for that acorn, it will completely unfold according to a master plan. Now, we understand that on almost all realms of life except the human realm, and that's rather sad. So far as we know, we just get one trip. We've got one shot at this game we call life. Some people work at completely unfolding according to that master plan. Others completely ignore the situation. Now, we found that there's many, many things that we're all ignorant about. I don't know how to bake a pie. I'm ignorant when it comes to that area. I don't know how to build a building like this. I'm ignorant when it comes to that area, and in many different areas. And we all are in many areas. There's one area that none of us should be ignorant about, and that's about what makes us tick, what would cause us to unfold according to a master plan, so we could go out and do the job that we truly want to do. Now, if we don't know, we're not going to be able to do it. Plato gave us the answer many, many years ago. He said, the ignorant don't know they're ignorant. Or in the vernacular, they don't know they don't know. But we found there's not that much allowance for ignorance. Not knowing does not make any difference. They still don't cut it. Charlie and Cleo have brought you some pretty good ideas. Now, Charlie's a funny guy. I worked with a couple of his friends before, Dr. Charles Jarvis and Senator Ed Murphy, and they're every bit as funny as he is. It's kind of hard to try and even compete in that area or work in that area where they're talking about. But we were working with Jay Beecroft recently, and he brought up a cute little story I'd like to share with you. We're talking about teaching different ideas, and he tells a story about a missionary that went off over to Afghanistan. He's going over there, and he's going to teach all the natives how to speak English. And he's pretty excited about the whole deal. And they flew him back into a little backwoods town, and the local chief came out and met him and welcomed him, told him how happy he was to see him there. And he also told him he was the only one in the entire area that spoke English. No one else spoke English. And then he introduced him to Walu, his guide, and he told him that Walu was going to be the one that shows him around. He's going to take him up into all the villages and all over the place, and Walu was going to be his sidekick for his duration there in Afghanistan. So then they presented him with a canoe, and they told him this was his canoe. That was his mode of transportation there in Afghanistan. Now, he continued to say that there was no buses, no trains, planes, or anything like that, but there was all kinds of wonderful rivers, and Walu was just great with the canoe. So Walu takes the canoe over, places it in the drink, sort of steadies it while the missionary gets into it, and away they go. Now, the missionary thought, well, now, if I'm ever going to start with anybody, I might as well start with Walu. I'm going to spend all my time with him. So he sort of pats the side of the canoe, and he says, canoe. And Walu said, canoe. He thought, God, this is marvelous. He just picked that up like that. And he goes along a little further, and he splashes the water, and he said, water. Walu said, water. He was just delighted with himself and with his new student. He went along a little further, and there's a flock of birds flying overhead, and he said, flamingos. And Walu said, flamingos. See, just ecstatic things were going so good. And then Walu reached over and tapped him in the shoulder, and he points to the shore, and here's a fellow over there. He's got a pretty good hold on the girl, and the missionary didn't know what to say, so he just sort of evaded the whole situation. But Walu didn't settle for this. He reaches over, and he taps him on the shoulder again, and he points to the shore. And the missionary just says, first thing come to his mind. He said, riding bicycle. With this, Walu takes out his blowgun, and boom, poor guy went right to the ground. Riding Walu's bicycle. Thank you. You're a great audience. I think I'll take you with me.
This diploma in professional interior design is
So Joe, to be honest, even just getting started there, like there's so, you know, like I know he's telling a little joke and he's not even really got into it, but he's kind of set the scene. You know, do you believe? You've got to have faith. You know, why don't you do it? You know, fall in love with what you're doing. You know, unfold to a master plan. You know, like, you know, even just setting that scene is like unbelievable stuff. You know, like, because you think, all right, okay, master plan. What is my master plan? You know, do you even have a master plan? You know, well, why aren't I doing it? You know, why isn't it unfolding as quickly, you know, or as efficiently, you know, as I want it to? And there's only one person to blame, and it's always me, right? You know, I'm to blame for everything. Um, but that first one, you know, do you believe? I think that's a great question to ask yourself. You know, do I believe? Do I believe I can do this? You know, the answer's got to be yes, hasn't it? You know, it has to be. Otherwise, you know, what's the point? You know, it's delusional. You know, like you know. So, what are your thoughts on the intro?
This is so me, you know, how many years that Bob has been studying this, and you know, 15 years. He mentioned that's so, you know, if you're passionate about something and you keep, you know, learn and unlearn and readjust, or you know, it's so how it's become natural. It become part of it, and you know, Bob can tell a story that make people laugh and people feel emotionally attached. And I think you and I are experiencing from his teaching, you know, something that it's make us move, it make us, you know, get into emotion, and then from emotion, it make us think, and because we have think about what we want to do in life and we believe in it, we go out and do what we believe in it. And I think that that's why you and I are here today, because of we didn't know, but when we get to study and gain knowledge and know about it, we fall in love with it. And
Yeah.
we do it for free, you know, because we love it, what we do. And we hope that it will make an impact in other people's life too, because it's happened to us, you know. What happened to Bob can happen to everyone, and it's happened to us because we're falling in love with the knowledge, because we know when we take the knowledge and apply it in our workplace, in our business, in our daily life, it make a whole lot of difference in other people's life too.
And that's what it's about, Joey. That's absolutely what it's about, and it's about the difference, you know, that your product or service, you know, can make to somebody else. And you know, that's the real key. That's the real key. You know, is making the difference. Like, you know, and look, you know, is it easy? You know, who was it who said, you know, what you need is an idea. What you need is ideas. Like, you know, turning up to work every day to a job that you don't like, you know, it can't be nice. I talk about this all the time. I talk about all this all the time with the people that work in our organization or people that join in our organization. You know, that when you turn up to work, you know, like before you go to work, you have to get up, maybe you get dressed, maybe you have to put on a uniform, you know, then you go into the work and then you have to act in a certain way, you know, you have to behave yourself you know, you have to just, you know, be this thing that you know, you're not being yourself. You don't get to be yourself. And it's not until you come home and then when you shrug off those clothes, put on your PJs or whatever it is, and that you actually just then get to be yourself again. You know, shrug off that persona and then you can be yourself. Well, you know, in my industry, you know, that's not what I want. I want people who are just going to be authentic themselves, who are going to turn up as the best version of themselves, the best version, you know, like, you know, and then you're going to be personally responsible. You're going to act personally responsible. And what do I mean by that? You know, like by doing things as they need to be done, you know, how they need to be done, you know, the best that you can do. Don't leave it, do it now, you know, and, you know, but be the best version of yourself whilst doing it. And that natural empathy and love and compassion should just be allowed to flow out, you know, because, you know, the environment that we work in, There's no human beings involved. It's just these little creatures that people often love more than they, love other human beings. So us turning up to that person's home to do what we do, for that person that we're doing it for, can sometimes be the most important thing that needs to happen for them on that day. And we get the opportunity to spend that time, as as authentic as we can be, in that moment, to be able to do this wonderful thing for somebody else, to help them feel better about something that makes them feel bad. And it means that, that person is making a real difference to that other person, by doing what they do. And I love that about what we do. I love the fact that we get the chance to, maybe someone could be having a really bad day, and us turning up and then sending these wonderful pictures and videos and everything else like this, we get to change their metaphysical state in that moment, to help them feel better, which is why we're Ireland's largest, most recommended, most trusted in what we do, probably Europe's largest independently owned. And we want to share that, and we want to grow that, and we want to make a difference for more people. And that's really what it's about. It's, like that falling in love with what you do, that is a big deal. That's a big deal, because that passion, comes out, when it's authentic and genuine, and that love for what you do comes out. To be honest, you just excel. You just get better. You become more understanding. You become more empathic of other people's feelings, because you recognize how they feel, because you have felt the same way. You know how they feel, and it can be hard for people, Joe. It can be hard because, you and I both know that, change can be hard, because there's all this fear and worry, and, what are other people going to think? And, like one of the reasons people, when we first started our business, somebody once said to me, oh, your business is probably based on word of mouth. And I said, well, it's not actually, because people don't tell other people, that they have someone to come and do what we do. And they were like, what? Why not? Well, they're afraid that if they tell other people, that they won't have, we won't have any availability for them, or their neighbors, or if they tell other people, they might think, oh my God, what kind of a big shot are you with a service like that? Who do you think you are? Can't be bothered to walk your own dog. Do you know what I mean? So they don't tell people. They didn't tell people. Now I think it's different, but in the beginning, people were afraid to tell other people because of fear of being judged, or fear of lack, not having service available to them because maybe we're too busy. So, it is funny, but I think when you talk about, when he's talking about belief in the beginning, and to be honest, you got to, in my mind, it was already done. I believed, we were told that no one would use a service like this. That's what we were told when we first started, but I didn't believe that. I didn't believe them. From there, it was like, right, I'm going to prove these bookers wrong. Do you know what I mean? I'm going to prove them. Do you know what I mean? And I don't know whether that's pig-headedness or whether it's just stubbornness or whether it's belief or maybe all three. Do you know what I mean? But I think you've got to, and that's what, when you fall in love with what you do, even when the days when you don't want to do it, you just do it. Do you know what I mean? And it's, and in fact, there'd be days when you'd think, why did I even start this? Why did I even start it? Do you know what I mean? Because, there's all kinds of different challenges that you go, and it doesn't matter what business you start. And if, look, if you're watching this, or maybe you're watching on a replay and you're thinking, I want to start a business, I would encourage you to start a business. I would encourage you to go out there and find something that fits you perfectly, and do something that you love, with people that you like, even more importantly, with people that you like, like-minded group of people, and listen, reach out to Joey, reach out to me. You never know. You might even be sitting there thinking, oh my God, I don't even like you, Mike. Well, that's okay. I won't lose any sleep. Don't worry. I'll be fine. Right? Find something that you like doing, that you enjoy doing, with a group of people that can teach you, and that you like being around, that are fun, and I love that unfolding of a master plan, I love that. I love the idea of that master plan. Do you know what I mean? And I think that comes back to what we were talking about last week, where, with the goals, having a goal sheet, having a goal list, deciding what you want, make a list. That's your master plan. All the things you want. And to be honest, we should really listen to that Earl show, because that gets into that goal setting big style, and the vision of it and everything else. But anyway, right, let's get back to this. Otherwise, we'll never even get through this first half.
I heard Charlie here this morning telling the story about the little boy with the Playboy magazine. Some of you might have heard this, some of you might not. But Bill Gove tells the story about the salesman. He said, salesmen are awful liars. Now, you know that, and I know that. I'm in the same business you're in. You see, we'll blame everything under the sun but ourselves if the sale doesn't go right. We blame the prospect, we'll blame the territory, we'll blame the policy, the sales manager, the shipping department, anything under the sun, but very rarely will we really blame ourselves. Now, everyone's a salesman, so he must have been talking about everyone. Robert Louis Stevenson one time said that everyone's a salesman. We're selling an idea, a product, or a service. If any of the new fellows think they can't sell because they're not salesmen, you might want to really study the meaning of the word. Salesmanship means to have an idea accepted, adopted, or approved. There isn't an individual in this room that has not been working since they first took breath at having their ideas accepted, adopted, or approved. So everyone's a salesman. He was taking in everyone. He said, ask the average person why they buy Playboy magazine. He says, you'll never get a straight answer. He says, they'll lie to you every time. He says, there's good young writers, there's excellent articles, and they go on and on and on. But he said he met a fellow one day, and it was rather refreshing. He told him the truth why he bought Playboy. He said he liked to look at colored pictures of beautiful places that he knew he was never going to visit. Somewhere right now, today, in many, many places, all across this continent, there's an insurance salesman calling on a prospect right now. That's not their hand on the door, that's their heart. They're scared stiff. Their hands are soaking wet. They'll walk up to their prospect like this. Now, some will say, well, they wouldn't actually do that. I've never seen that done. I don't mean physically, I mean mentally. They're crawling into the situation. They are scared stiff. The prospect is dangerously underinsured. The prospect is married and has a family, and they're in dire need of some protection. The insurance agent just might be as underinsured as the prospect. At any rate, he's calling on them ill-equipped to ever sell an idea. And the first time the prospect says no, that's his cue to hit the exit, and he's gone. He's out the door. And that man is left dangerously underinsured. Less than 1 month ago, my best friend dropped dead here in this city. I was talking to his wife 2 days ago. She's out filling in applications for a job. Not because she wants to, because she has to. He had $12,000 worth of insurance. Now, someone might say, how could he be so stupid? That was an area that he was ignorant in. Someone didn't do their job. They sold him a policy, but not the proper one. They never gave him the right coverage. Now, we all know that the average person is dangerously underinsured. Not the average person. A high majority of all people are dangerously underinsured. A truck driver that's earning $10,000 a year today must have $50,000 to $100,000 to be properly protected if he wants to leave his family in a financial position, should he be taken out of the picture. Not many of them own it. Let's think of it this way for a second. That young fellow that we were talking about, that's hands are sweating, he's scared stiff, that's calling on the prospect right now, somewhere today, he has been well trained. I've worked with a few hundred companies in I don't know how many cities in North America. I have yet to find a company that has better training programs than the insurance industry has. You have spent millions of dollars devising some of the finest training programs available today. That man's well trained. He knows what to do, but he's not doing it. He doesn't even know why he's not doing it. He's not doing it, I believe, because he doesn't understand himself. He doesn't know what makes him tick. Think of this for just a second. Let's assume for a moment that the sand in the top of this hourglass represents your life, yours and mine. One thing is certain, that sand is not going to stop running through that hourglass. Even as we sit here, some of it's ticking away. We don't know when it's going to run dry. We don't know that.
Who would like to have more money in their lives? Come on, who wants to make a lot of money? If you want more money in your lives, surely you need...
We can continue from the day of this Congress on doing the way we've been doing. There will be some people that are here today that will not return here next year. They will have left the industry. They will not be able to earn a living in it. They could earn a fortune in it, but they're not going to do it. They won't be here next year. There will be some people who will return, and their production will change. It'll be up a little or down a little. There will be other people return who will have doubled, tripled, or quadrupled their business. But there's no one here who could not return and double, triple, or quadruple their business in the coming year. We've got this running out right now. We've got to make a decision, and we make the decision now, not tomorrow, not later tonight, right now, if we're ever going to make it. It's not that you don't have the talent and that you don't have the ability. That's a cop-out that I'm way too tired of hearing when I talk to people. When I first went into this business, I thought I had used Nightingale's material for 7 or 8 years, and I thought, gee, this is just going to be wonderful. I can run out and I can sell this to all the people that need it. Boy, did I ever get a slap in the mouth. They didn't even know what I was talking about. Then I called on a man who's probably here today. I don't believe I made a sale that day, but he sure made one. Boy, he taught me something that has just, I don't know what it's been worth to me since I've come into the business 4 or 5 years ago. His name was Tony Laws. Most of you probably know Tony. I walked into his office, he opened a closet door, and I thought he had just bought Nightingale's warehouse out. He had it stacked full of material. Then he called me around to the other side of his desk, and he said, Bob, look at this. And he opened the drawer, and there was rows of it. He says, I'm a real sucker when it comes to this stuff. I can remember saying to him, yeah, Tony, so am I, but it's really nice, isn't it? I understand that Tony's probably one of the top agents in this area. He made a decision at one time to change something in his life. Everything is in a constant evolution of change. Nothing remains constant. The only thing that's permanent is change. I believe until we understand ourselves, what makes us tick, we'll never really get off the launching pad. The real pros in your industry, in ours, or in any other industry automatically do the right thing. 40 years ago, right around the time I was born, a man in your industry made a talk over on the east coast of the United States. It was probably one of the finest talks that was ever made. I've studied it many, many months. For the last few years, I've studied it. His name was Albert E. N. Gray. He gave us the answer. He was searching for the common denominator of success in your business. I believe he was the secretary to Prudential Insurance Company at that time, and he found it. He said it's in forming the habit of doing things that failures don't like to do. If you don't have a copy of that talk, I'd suggest you write to Prudential and get one. They'll give you one. I know that. It's excellent. We operate mostly by habit. Unconsciously, we're doing things every day while the time is running away. Our sales will not be left up to chance or luck. Our sales, like everything else in the entire universe, operates by law, not by luck. We wouldn't have to think to walk off here. We just wouldn't walk off. If we drop that chalk, we know it's going to go down. Anything heavier than air will always be attracted towards the center of the universe. We understand that. That was programmed into our mind when we were little gaffers. We weren't born with that knowledge. We were deliberately taught that by our parents. Don't get up there, you're going to fall. And over and over and over. They gave us the repetition of that idea, and now we automatically live in accordance with it. We walk to the edge of the building, it'll never enter our mind to walk off. We automatically turn around and come back or go around. That's a law. Well, there's other laws. Here's a law here that Emerson said was the law of laws. He said for every action, there's an equal reaction in the opposite direction. Whatever we put out, that's the only thing that can come back and visit upon us. I really feel sorry for the salesman that thinks he can corner someone, he can con them or fast talk them and close them in a sale. He's deluding himself. He may do it a few times, but he'll never be one of the real stars in your business or in ours, because he's not putting the right thing out, and therefore he'll never get it back. It's a funny thing. We take these little balls, we drop 2. We don't knock the 3 of them out. We get 2 back. And out of the 5, the law decrees if we drop 3, we'll get 3 back. And so on. And that's the way it works. Our thoughts, feelings, and actions, that's our attitude. It's everything about us. And the attitude that we express is the only thing that can come back and visit upon us. We've had people go through the seminars, and it's almost like a transformation in them. Just a few simple ideas, and it pulls a lot of the things together they've studied for years, and they're different people. We don't have to have a bachelor's degree or a master's degree in commerce and finance to realize that 10 $100,000 policies is $1 million. A person with $100,000 insurance today has proper coverage. If they haven't got it. I have a lot of people in your business tell me, but some of them can't afford it. People afford anything they want. The clothes you've got on you don't need. You've got other clothes at home. You bought them because you want them. Motley said we should forget needs and concentrate on wants. We're want creators, salesmen are. And when we make them want what we've got, they'll move mountains to get it. If they can't afford it, we might help them and show them how to earn a little more money so that they can afford it. They may not have any money in their pocket. They may have none in the bank. But I'll guarantee if they go out and find all the tires slashed on their car, they'll put tires on their car. They find the money to get the things they want. Now, everybody wants to leave their family properly protected. We know that. They may not be consciously aware of it. They may not sit and think about it all the time. That's our business. We bring it to their attention. You know, I read something here by Norman Vincent Peale that I think is just absolutely beautiful. He defines salesmanship a little different. He says, what is salesmanship? He said, it is a process by which an individual gets another individual to walk a road of agreement with them. I don't think it's too difficult to get an individual to walk a road of agreement with us when it comes to the area of protecting their family. But if we believe we can tell a person one thing and think another thing and communicate a picture properly to them, we're kidding ourselves. And sometimes we actually do trick ourselves. Unconsciously, we are really working these laws against ourselves. We will tell the person we're sincerely interested in helping them. We explain it verbally and through writing. And we're thinking, I sure hope I make this sale so I can get the commission. He doesn't want to make us any richer than we already are. He does want the help that we're talking about. Now, we can control this, and we can get into such a way, our mind working in such a way, that we automatically do things the right way, like we automatically live in accordance with this law that we're talking about. I'm going to just very quickly run through a very basic idea. It could be a very complicated idea. We're going to simplify it. Keep this thought in mind. Right now, the sand's still running. It never stops. If we want to change, Charlie was talking here earlier this morning, we should grow every day. A man by the name of Newman once said, in another and better world, things might be different. But in this world, to grow is to change. And to change often is to grow much. There's only one thing we can change, and that's the ideas we hold in here. Hubbard, the American humorist, once said something that I think is worth thinking about for the rest of your life. He said, it ain't what people don't know that hurts them, it's what they know that ain't so that hurts them.
We tend to think that our spirit is in our body. That's actually not correct.
So, Joe, what are you thinking?
There's a lot of values that Bob share on this one. I started with the law of Newton. You know, for every action there's an opposite reaction. So true. It's what we show. The Bible talk about it. What we show, we reap. You know, what we put in, we get out. One thing that I learned last week, and I applied it when I went away on the weekend. I think it's Les Brown. I love Les Brown teaching to Les said, if you decided to do something in life, go all in. And I think a lot of people they just go half in, you know, in whatever they decided to do in life. And it's not bad things, you know, everyone is different, but it's all come down to how you understand yourself. Like Bob said, a lot of people don't do, you know, they learn a lot of information, but they don't go out and apply that because there's something in them they don't understand, you know. For example, what make me tick, what make me a better, you know, a great person, what make me a great networker, what make me a great business partner. And I think it's funny. I met a friend from the army this weekend, and she said to me when we saw each other, and could you believe it? And I said, what happened to you? And she said to me, I just got told that our company's closed down and I didn't have any job in a few weeks. And I asked her the question, so what are you going to do? And she said, I'm a little bit disappointed, upset. You know, and he started to throw up the justification or blaming, you know, it's our human nature to blame the situation that happened to us, you know, our circumstances in life. And I think that's how it's important to learn about the best version of yourself, like you share your story with your company and the people that you hire, is because when you learn about to become the best version of yourself, when circumstance change, you can adapt, you know, because you have the habit of the way you thought, feeling, and take action in your life.
Yeah.
And
No, that makes total sense. Total sense. And yeah, because that's what, you know, what I actually picked up is everything that you've just kind of talked on, and I just made little notes, you know, habits by law, not luck, you know, change is permanent, make a decision, and thoughts, feelings, actions, and comes down. Yeah, you see, that's the thing, isn't it? That sometimes decisions are made for you, especially if you work in a company. And certainly when you're in the army or you're out on maneuvers or training or something like this, you've got circumstances which you're not in control of, but you have to adapt to. Do you know what I mean? And that's just life. You have to adapt to life, and then it's how how you're thinking, feeling, and acting. Is going to govern those responses. You know. And he was talking about, obviously he's talking about sales. Now I actually like sales. I love sales. I love talking to people, about what we do, how we do it, what they can expect, and all that kind of stuff. And I ask people, what is it that you think that we do? And they reel off a whole bunch of things, and I say, well, yeah, that's kind of right, but it's they're the tasks that we perform for our clients. That's what you're describing are the tasks that we perform. What we really do is help that person feel better. So we don't actually sell pet services. Well, we do, but we sell feelings. That's what we sell. And it's my job to help that person feel like the best pet owner in the world. Just by giving them a less hassle, less stress. And I tell every one of my customers, look, it's my job to do your worrying for you. Your job's to go on holiday or go wherever it is you're going to go and have an amazing time. Let me worry about this for you. That's my job. And that's what we do. We sell. That's what people, Joey, people don't buy what they need, and that's what Bob was talking about. They don't buy what they need. He was talking about you didn't, you bought those clothes because you wanted those clothes. You could have bought any clothes. And it's the same for us too. Like that's why you have all these different brands, because people have choices to buy what they want, and they don't buy what they need. They buy what makes them feel good. And that's why it's so important that if you love what you do, if you fall in love with what you do, it's very easy to talk about it. It's very easy to build a dream about it for somebody else, so that they can fall in love with your philosophy, or they can fall in love with your vision, or they can fall in love with the idea. And that's what Bob's talking about. He's talking about the ideas. So and again, I like to think that we're the right business for everybody, but sometimes we're just not the right business right now, and that's fine. Our job is just to be there when someone needs us. And you talk about this a lot. You sit with someone, you talk to them, even your friend, you're able to maybe plant a seed with that person, and then, when their circumstances change, maybe that seed is now being forced to grow out the ground. Right, okay, I've got to do something. What can I do? And we're going to talk to Joey and let's see if there's something that I can get help with there. Do you know what I mean? And again, reasons for doing it. Is that the right reason? Probably not the right reason. Do you know what I mean? But again, it's about then building the dream for that person, the reason why they're doing it, the difference that they can make for themselves as well as others. And that's what it's about. To change, to grow is to change. Like, to be honest, this stuff, pisses me off sometimes, Joe. I'll be honest with you. Do you know what I mean? Because it's almost saying, every time there's change, every time you have adversity, every time there's something going on, it's growth. You have to grow through it. To get through it, you've got to grow through it. It's like, God, this is crazy. Do you know what I mean? Because you're constantly changing, and growing and learning new things. Every time you learn something new, it empowers you more to take personal responsibility, but it doesn't help in the sense that, right, okay, now I know more, it just means now I've got to be better. Do you know what I mean? Otherwise I'm just being willfully ignorant. I'm not changing. I'd learned something new, but I refuse to change or to adapt or to grow, because, I'm comfortable. I'm in that comfort zone. Do you know what I mean? So, I think you've got to embrace it, haven't you? You've got to embrace it and say, fuck it, I'm going for it. Fuck it, I'm doing it. Do you know what I mean? That's it. I'm doing it. We're making it happen, and that's all you can do. Like I sat down, I've been talking about this academy, for quite a few months now, and it's, to be honest, I've been talking about it. People ringing me, can I join your academy? Can I join your academy? I'm like, fucking hell, do you know what I mean? Like, it's getting out of control, right? Right. So, you get what you think about, right? So, telling you. All right, let's watch a little bit more of this. You got anything else to add? Have you got
Say that
anything?
again.
Have you got anything?
No. I just love what you just dropped there. I think is a golden nugget. You get through. To get through it, you have to grow through it, and it's so true. You have to become the person you really want to become to achieve what you want in life.
Yeah.
And I that's my big epiphany. Is my result is the true reflection of who I become in the journey, and that's my greatest joy, knowing that I got compensate for who I am, because like you said, we helping people feel good, feel better, and realize the same feeling that you have. And that's how you add value to people, is to uplifting them, not to pulling them down. So in the situation.
I was actually thinking about you this morning, and I was thinking, fucking hell, Joey's done amazing, really, And I'm just thinking to myself while I was just doing something in the kitchen, and I was thinking about this morning. I was thinking about you and being an islander, climbing coconut trees. Do you know what I mean? And even the things that along the lines of just looking up at aeroplanes and just being an islander, just being on the island, and having brothers going off into the army, and you thinking, I'd never be in, I can't do that. I'd never be able to do that. I'd never be able to do that. And then and of course then moving to Australia, like growth, all of the challenges, the fears that go along with that. And again, that thing of moving from the island to the city or to a bigger country. I'm always in admiration of people, like people who maybe live in Brazil or Mexico or whatever, and then they travel halfway around the world and come and live in Ireland, and and they're only young, maybe they're only 19 or 20, they're just young kids. And I think, oh my God, that takes such guts and bravery to do that. Do you know what I mean? And they don't realize that it's bravery. Do you know what I mean? It's confidence or whatever it is that they've got, but it's a big deal. It's a big deal to be able to do something like that, to set up, to become independent, to leave everything that you know behind, and start learning all these new things. But bringing it back to what I was thinking about you, and then how now you're in the army, from a place of where you thought you could never be. Do you know what I mean? Married, grown-up kids that admire you and want to work with you and be part of your journey. Your kids, the way that you live your lifestyle, encourages others to want to do the same. You started going to the gym, and your kids are probably looking at you going, why are you going to the gym? And now your kids are copying you. Do you know what I mean? And they're going, because they're watching, and they can see that person that you are, and they want to be like you. And it's just beautiful. Do you know what I mean? And that's the difference that you're making, for your kids, for your wider community. Think about you being in the church, leaving the church, and now those people in the church are looking up to you and saying, wow, look at the person that you've become since you left. Do you know what I mean? How you were able to grow. And it's just fascinating and incredible, and I think about I just think about you as an example for people, from climbing coconut trees, do you know what I mean, to $1 million difference maker, property portfolio, business partner, to these people who are training and teaching and helping, speaker at events, things like this. Come on, Joey. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's unbelievable. You know, it's just beautiful.
Like you said, you become what you're thinking about.
But that's an example of to grow is to change.
Yeah.
You know, you're an example of that. And some of that growth, you know, is painful. Do you know what I mean? It's absolutely painful, you know? But because I was talking to a young lady, I was sitting down having a coffee with somebody, she wants to join the academy. And I was saying to her, I said, some of these things, you know, some of these adversities that you go through when you're in business, you know, like you have to go through them to get the experience, to learn, you know, to be better. Do you know what I mean? You know, you have to do it. You know, like we all screw up. Do you know what I mean? We do. But it's about learning from it and not doing it again and growing and becoming better, you know, about it. And the key then is to try and guide and teach other people, you know, how to avoid those circumstances. Some people are just going to do it anyway. Do you know what I mean? They have to learn on their own way.
So true.
But if you can, you know, if you can, you talked about this last week, learn from other people's experiences, you know, like, which is funny because, you know, and I'm sure you're the same, you know, when I'm talking to people and someone says, no, I don't think I could do that. I think that's not true. You know, of course you could do it. You know, you just don't believe you could do it, you know, and if you, and whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
You know, there's no point in trying to, you know, and, you know, he's talking about, I always say, look, it's not my job to convince you that this is the right thing for you, you know, but he's talking about walking that road of agreement. That's about, you know, what you're talking about, planting these seeds, you know, you're further down the road than they are, but sometimes you have to come back to meet them and see if you can bring them a little bit further up the road.
Yeah.
That's fine, you know, and, you know, this stuff is, you know, like I love listening to Bob Proctor. Do you know what I mean? I do. You know, because he, you know, he's bringing all these different things in. But, yeah, when I think about you, that to grow is to change, you're the essence of that. Do you know what I mean? You know, you really are. You know, more power to you, Joey. Telling you.
Thank you, Mike.
Right, let's get back to it.
Yep.
Your body is in your spirit. People.
It's what we know that ain't so that hurts us. Some people know that because I've never gone out and really sold anything before, I'm not a salesman, so that's why I'm not going to make it. That just ain't so. Some people know that one person has more in them, more potential than another person. That just ain't so. The person that believes that has never really studied people. There's only 2 points of reference we can go to when we're talking about people. Nowhere else. If we want to find out how to do better, we're going to have to understand ourselves a little better. Inscribed over the Ark of Apollo at Delphi are 2 words. It says, know thyself. Very rarely does a person ever really get to know themselves. There's only 2 points of reference we can go to if we want to find out something about ourselves. I was quite pleased to hear Charlie and Cleo talking about God here this morning. A lot of people sort of push that under the rug these days. Boy, they're looking in the wrong area. Because that's one area is theology. Can't ignore it. The other area is science. If we just look at one area, then we can't invoke the law of relativity. We've got nothing to compare it to. Theology is one area. There's only 6 basic religions in the entire world. I've done a lot of work in California, and I think there's something like 4,000 in California. But there's just 6 basic religions. We have Hinduism, Buddhism, Judaism, Islam, Confucianism, and Christianity. Let me tell you where the problem lies. If you go up and ask a person if they're Christian, they'll say, I'm a Christian. You've got to define that. Call ourselves Christians after Christ's name. One person. So then you have to define it. You might want to say, well, what kind of a Christian? You'll say, well, I'm a Baptist. Well, then you've got to define that again. You say, what kind of a Baptist? And this is the way it breaks off. Now, is that good? Sure, it's good. Is it bad? Sure, it's bad. Everything in the universe is both bad and good. Nothing's all bad and nothing's all good. If you're looking for what's bad in your business, you don't have to look very far. There's all kinds of things that are bad in your business. And that doesn't take a whole lot of intelligence, though. It doesn't take much understanding. It doesn't take much Christianity. It doesn't take too much of anything to find out what's wrong with anything. But boy, it takes a respectable amount of intelligence and a respectable amount of understanding to find out what's right with something. We can find what's wrong with a person, a situation, a circumstance, a condition, or environment in seconds. And whenever that's what you're focused on, what's wrong, you'll get lots of help. There'll be all kinds of people saying, yeah, I'll tell you what else is wrong.
Designing a door entry or access control project? Our practical checklist guides you through 10
Right, I think that is the end of that recording.
Start concentrating on what's right about it.
Hold on. Yeah, so that's part, this is side B. I don't think we should get into side B this week. So we'll just stick to side A. And yeah, I think, Joey, I think we'll get your final thoughts, you know, but just before we do, hold on. Don't forget, like, subscribe, share, click the notification button. You'll learn when we're on each week, usually about the same time. And of course, you know, don't forget, go and find Joey on Facebook. There's a lot of content, right? Facebook.com/Joye Unga. You know, again, links are in the description. And if you want to learn more about his health and wellness business and how to become a partner with Joey, again, link is in the description. Find out there. And again, check out, you know, where he was like giving a speech, giving a talk about his journey. You can find about that on his YouTube channel. Very fascinating. You know, great story. And get it from the horse's mouth. You don't have to get it from me. Just get it from Joey, right? So, and again, you can find me on my website, petsoftheisland.com/academy, you know, where we're teaching people how to start their own businesses where they get to keep every penny that they earn. And I love that. I love that. You know, like, you know, being able to start a business. Of course, you can never keep every penny that you earn because you have to buy stuff, you have to pay for stuff and everything else, you know, but you know, you want to be, you know, like if you're doing a job, you want to be able to keep all that money. I hate the fact that I have to give it to the government. Do you know what I mean? Like taxes. Oh my God, I hate taxes. You know, but anyway, who doesn't? Do you know what I mean? But I'm grateful that I get to be able to perform and be able to have the opportunity to serve, help people feel better. And as a result, we get a lot of reward from that. You know, you get to feel good about it. And of course, we get paid really well too. Well, why not? You know, because you deserve it, because you're providing something, you're providing a service. And again, one of the other things that I want to get into with the academy, certainly if you're in that pet care industry and you're providing a service, you know, one of the ways, you know, you can make a healthy living providing services to people for sure. But you want to be able to scale, you want to be able to grow. One way to do that is by adding on bolt-on products, you know, where you can sell, you know, into your existing client base and add an additional income stream, you know. So they're the types of things that I want to talk to people about and how you can do that and what type of things that maybe you might have. We have access to some and we want to share them with you so that, you know, so reach out, get in touch, you know. But listen, it doesn't matter whether you're reaching out to me or Joey. You know, I'm sure both of us will tell you that, look, if this is right for you, great. But if it's not, you know, you know, we don't want you to do something that isn't going to work for you. Do you know what I mean? You know, you've got to be doing something that you love. And this was talked about in the beginning. You know, I think it's so important. Sometimes you have to work on something. Joey, have you ever watched a movie? You know, your missus turns around, she says, "Oh, I want to watch this movie." And you're like, "Jeez, I don't want to watch this movie. This movie looks shit." Do you know what I mean? I don't even want to watch it. You know, and then it's on. So, and you're like, "Yeah, okay, let's watch it." And you're watching it, and halfway through, you're like, "Oh, I want to know what's going on. I want to know what's happening there." Sometimes you have to get involved in something to fall in love with it. Do you know what I mean? You know, you can't.
Absolutely.
Got to get involved. You got to immerse yourself. It's like when you get in a pool. You know, you dip your toe in and you're like, "Oh my God, it's freezing. Oh my God, that's freezing. I can't get in there. I can't get in there." But as soon as you get in and get your shoulders under, you're like, "Hey, it's nice in here. I like it in here. Yeah, this is cool." Do you know what I mean? It's fresh. It's, you know, I really enjoy it. So you've got to get involved. You've got to get involved with it. You've got to get emotional with it, right? And once you get emotional with it, you know, you're going to find out quickly what you love about it, but you're also going to find out what you need to learn about it, right? Yeah, and it's not about what you hate about it, it's what you learn about it, and learn to do those things and learn to be better at those things, you know, adapt, as Joey's saying. Right, we're going to get Joey's final thoughts, right? Let's have a look. Episode 145. Something wonderful is happening. Unlock your hidden potential. Joey's final thoughts. Right, take it away, Joey. Hold on. Take it away. What am I doing? Hold on, what am I doing? Oh, what am I doing here? Right.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks each and every one of you that's watching this, whether currently live or the replay. I always believe that if you come across this video and you see this two ordinary person, you know, different location, different background, and you watch, take maybe 3-5 minutes or more to watch this, there must be something in new, that one more in life, one something different in life, and you are searching for something. And maybe what we share will help you, direct you in the right direction, or give you an idea that, like a seed that planted in your mind, that will be able to change the way you think, the way you feel, and the way you do action in life. And perhaps you will get the result you really, really deserve in life. And Mike, thank you for the opportunity. I will say this: know thyself. And I think Bob said this, it's one of the apostle, Paul. He was a Jewish and he became apostle. He rejected Christianity. He beat up Christianity people. This is after Jesus passed away or crucified from the Bible. And he turned as a Christian. One day he was hit by a light. He was blinded, and a voice came to him and said, I am the people that you crucify, the people that you murder and killed. Um, this is me. You've been killing me, trying to share the good news with the world. There is a better way. There's a better way to live. They can see thyself and learn about themselves. If they truly believe, they could become their own savior in life. And I think it's come back to what we shared today. Um, Something in us that really, really want to change. And it's totally up to us to make the decision. It's all come down to decision. If you want to change something in life, you got to make the decision. Not tomorrow, because tomorrow is mystery. Yesterday is history, but today is a gift. And the gift that you have today, at this very moment, that you have, that you can make a decision whether to change your life to be better or worse tomorrow. And I think that's the great gift that we have as a human being, that we have the ability to make decision, to make choice. And I think I like that. And Mike said, who you are is who you choose to become. Who you are is who you choose to think, and feel about it, and take action about who you really, really want to achieve. I'll share a little story that I come across on the weekend. I got a person that follow me, a good friend from the army, and the first thing she said to me, Joey, I love watching your journey. And she's from a different country, that background, but we both live in Australia, and she followed my journey. And she asked me to share a little bit what I do. And when I share them from my heart, because I have a desire in life to, every opportunity that I come across someone and we connect in some way, is to sincerely let that person that I really want to help them, whether it's from my story, my experience, the books that I read, the people that I surround myself with, because I want other people to experience the life that I have, the feeling that I have, the result that I have. And when I share my story with her, she said to me, Joey, just take my money. And I know we've been taught to find something that we love in life and patiently work on it, improve on it, become the best version of yourself. Like I like how my good friend Mike share with his employee. Just show up every day and be the best version of yourself. And you can do that through a lot of things. It's the book that you read, maybe the podcast you watch, maybe the association that you have, the environment that you have, the program that you listen to in your car when you drive to work. That will change you to become who you really. Because in life, we all searching within us for the person that we truly meant to be. And we have greatness in us. There's something special in us. And no one will find it for us. Only us can search for that person who I am really want to be. And every day we are on a journey. And we are on a journey together. We are on a journey to find out who's the really Joye Unga is, who is the really Mike McKillen. And I think that's why we love what we do, despite whether we compensate it or not, because we know the more we give, the more we receive. In a different form of compensation in life, whether it's psychology, or physically, whether it's money, financially, time, freedom, because when you love what you do and you passionately willing to share that with the world, you never know. You never know, someone that will take that idea and run with it. And I think that's the greatest reward in what we do. And like Mike do, is to help someone else succeed in life, whether to increase their earning, whether to learn a new skill, whether to build something new, something better for themselves, or to leverage other people's time, skill, opinion to build an empire. I think because of who you really, really think of you is, and it all start from you, to make an impact in the world. It's all start from you. You have to become the best version of yourself. You have to become the person that you never been before. I think I will close with this: to have something in life that you never had before, you have to become a person that you never be before. And to do that, you gotta be changed. And to change, your first step to change is sit down, make a decision, take out of your head and write it down. Write it down, your goal. We talk about it a few times in the goal setting. Write it down and just, think about it. Is this what I really want in life? Gonna improve the quality of my health, my mindset, my family, my associate. If I change, what's the difference? And I think you can see my intentionally where this gap, because I want to become a different maker in what I do. And everywhere I go, you plant the seed. You plant the seed by sharing your passion, you sharing your gift, you sharing the opportunity that you have, like Mike McKillen. And because you passionately share that, despite there's no compensation, or you do it for free, that your word, your deed, your example, your intention will be able to change someone else's life. And when that person go out and take that knowledge or understanding from what you share and apply it, implement it, and they get the result they want, it's a good feeling knowing that you make a difference in this world. So, Mike, thank you very much for the opportunity to be part of this journey together with you. And today, as we reflect on the memory of Bob Proctor, I know for sure that he's passed away physically, God bless him, but his legacy will live on because we keep unpacking the knowledge, the wisdom that he shared with the world through us, within us, to you watching this right now or later in life. So we're so grateful for the opportunity, Mike McKillen. I pray to God to give you more time and more wisdom to continue on, make an impact in this world through your service, through your work, through your mission, so that we can continue on and make a difference in this world.
I hope for the same thing too, Joey, for sure. And I love what you said there, patiently work on yourself. I love that, because it takes patience, doesn't it? And it doesn't happen overnight. I've heard you say this so many times. It doesn't happen overnight. It happens over time. And you're right, garbage in, garbage out. It's what you put in. It's what you feed, it's what you feed yourself. You're making a lot of sense, Joe. Making a lot of sense. Right.
Thank you, my friend.
Okay. I love it. Amazing. Right. Okay. You've been watching Freedom, Health and Lifestyle, episode 145. Something wonderful is happening, and it can happen for you. There's no doubt about it. Right. We shall see you next week. I'm going to put on this favorite video. Right. This video's got it all. It really does have it all. Right. See you next week.
You see, we are created in a magnificent vibration, in an absolutely magnificent vibration. Born risk takers. Free. That conditioning takes place after birth. You can change it. It takes guts. It takes goals. Do you know something? You're sitting there watching this and you're thinking, by God, I'm going to change something. I always say, keep reminding yourself that you have tremendous reservoirs of potential within you, and therefore you are quite capable of doing anything you set your mind to. You really can. I don't care what the cynics tell you. Quit listening to some of your peers. Now, all you must do is figure out how you can do it, not whether you can or not. When are you going to do it? When are you going to do it? You've got to create a sense of urgency. I'm going to do it right now.
If you can see it, you can do it. But the beautiful truth is you can do anything. We got to know there is a place. There is a specific frequency. And if you get on that frequency, you're going to attract what you need to you. This is what it's all about. Why have you been endowed with such awesome powers? If you'll make a committed decision, this I'm going to do. And you don't have to know how. You do not have to know how. The second you make the committed decision, you flip your brain onto the frequency that you have to be on to attract what you have to attract to manifest the thing that you want. If you can see it, you can do it. It's got to be something you want. Wants come from inside. Act like you're already there. Walk, talk, speak, live like you're already there. Don't set a small goal. Don't set something that doesn't really wind your stem. Set it so big it jazzes you. It really gets you going. When something of a very high nature resonates with the very high side of you, you'll know it. You'll know it. You will feel it. Feeling is conscious awareness of vibration. The only prerequisite, do you want it? Not do you need it, not could you do it. The only prerequisite is, do you want it? Take the lid off your marvelous mind and dream. For goodness sake, give yourself the right to do that. Get your analytical mind out of the way. Put it in your pocket for a while. All you're doing is exploring, daydreaming. What did Lawrence say? All men dream, but not equally. Those who dream by night in the dusty recesses of their mind waken the day to find that it was vanity. But the dreamers of the day are dangerous men, for they may act their dream with open eyes to make it possible. This I did.